Have you ever wondered how one man could rise from obscurity to command an empire that stretched across Europe? How a single individual could redefine warfare, law, and the very map of a continent? This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, a name that echoes through history, synonymous with ambition, genius, and tragic downfall. From a small island in the Mediterranean to the grandest palaces of Europe, his journey is one of the most incredible tales ever told. So, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the epic life of the man who crowned himself emperor. Born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, Napoleon Bonaparte, as he was first known, was the son of a minor noble family. He felt like an outsider in mainland France, where he was sent for military school. Teased for his Corsican accent and modest background, he found solace in books, devouring works on history, strategy, and mathematics. This young, fiercely ambitious artillery officer saw his chance during the chaos of the French Revolution. The old order was crumbling, creating a power vacuum, and Napoleon, with his sharp mind and unwavering self-belief, was ready to fill it. His big break came in 1793 at the Siege of Toulon. The city had rebelled against the revolutionary government and was supported by British and Spanish forces. The French situation was dire, but a 24-year-old Napoleon devised a brilliant plan: capture the high ground overlooking the harbour and use artillery to force the enemy fleet to flee. It was a risky but masterful strategy that worked perfectly. The victory made him a hero and earned him a promotion to brigadier general. Suddenly, the name Napoleon was on everyone's lips in Paris. He was no longer just a boy from Corsica. He was a rising star of the Republic. After Toulon, his career skyrocketed. In 1795, when a royalist mob threatened the government in Paris, Napoleon was called upon to defend it. Famously, he ordered his men to fire cannons into the crowd, a whiff of grapeshot, as he called it. It was brutal, but it saved the Directory, the government of the time. As a reward, he was given command of the French army in Italy. This campaign would cement his legend. Facing larger Austrian and Sardinian armies, Napoleon used speed, surprise, and bold maneuvers to divide and conquer his enemies. He won a series of stunning victories, like the Battle of Lodi and the Battle of Rivoli, becoming a national icon. He wasn't just a general, he was a political force, negotiating treaties and establishing new republics in Italy. He sent a river of treasure and art back to France, boosting his popularity and the nation's morale. But his ambition knew no bounds. Next, he set his sights on the east, launching a campaign in Egypt and Syria in 1798. His goal was to disrupt British trade routes to India. While his military success there was mixed, he won the Battle of the Pyramids, but his fleet was destroyed by Admiral Nelson at the Battle of the Nile. The expedition had a massive cultural impact. His team of scholars and scientists made incredible discoveries, most famously the Rosetta Stone, which would later unlock the secrets of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. While stranded in Egypt, Napoleon learned of political instability back home. Seeing another opportunity, he abandoned his army and secretly sailed back to France. Upon his return in 1799, he found the government weak and corrupt. Along with several co-conspirators, he staged a coup d'état on the 18th of Brumaire. The coup overthrew the Directory and established a new government called the Consulate. At just 30 years old, Napoleon was now the first consul of France, effectively the country's dictator. The revolution had come full circle, replacing a king with an even more powerful ruler. But Napoleon wasn't just a military man. As first consul, he proved to be an incredibly effective administrator. He centralized the government, reformed the banking system, and, most importantly, created the Napoleonic Code. This new legal framework was a monumental achievement, standardizing laws across France and enshrining principles like equality before the law and property rights. It was so influential that it forms the basis of the legal systems in many countries to this day. By 1804, Napoleon's power was absolute. He felt the title of First Consul was no longer enough. In a lavish ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, with the Pope in attendance, he did something unprecedented. As the Pope reached to place the crown on his head, Napoleon took it and crowned himself. Then, he crowned his wife, Josephine, as Empress. The message was clear. His power came not from God or the Church, but from himself. The French Republic was no more. The French Empire had begun, and Napoleon Bonaparte was its emperor. As emperor, Napoleon's military genius reached its zenith. He led his Grande Army, one of the greatest fighting forces ever assembled, on a series of brilliant campaigns known as the Napoleonic Wars. In 1805, at the Battle of Austerlitz, often called his masterpiece, he defeated a larger combined Russian and Austrian army through flawless strategy and timing. This victory secured his dominance over Central Europe. He dismantled the 1,000-year-old Holy Roman Empire and replaced it with a confederation under his control. He placed his brothers and relatives on the thrones of various European nations, creating a Bonaparte dynasty. For a time, it seemed no one could stop him. His empire stretched from Spain to Poland, and only Great Britain, protected by its powerful navy, remained a constant, defiant foe. But the seeds of his downfall were being sown. His attempt to cripple Britain economically through the continental system, a blockade against British goods, backfired, hurting European economies and stoking resentment. The long, brutal war in Spain, known as the Spanish Ulcer, drained French resources and manpower as Spanish guerrillas waged a relentless resistance. Yet, Napoleon's greatest mistake was still to come. In 1812, driven by his rivalry with Tsar Alexander I, he made the fateful decision to invade Russia. He assembled the largest European army ever seen, over 600,000 men, and marched into the vast Russian plains. But the Russians refused to engage in a decisive battle. Instead, they retreated deeper and deeper into their territory, employing a scorched earth policy, burning crops and villages to deny the French army supplies. Napoleon captured a deserted Moscow, but as winter approached, he was forced to order a retreat. The retreat from Moscow is one of the most horrific episodes in military history. Stalked by the Russian army and the brutal Russian winter, the Grande Army disintegrated. Starvation, frostbite, and constant attacks decimated his forces. Of the more than 600,000 men who invaded, fewer than 100,000 made it out. It was a catastrophe from which Napoleon would never fully recover. The disastrous Russian campaign shattered the myth of Napoleon's invincibility. Emboldened by his defeat, a coalition of European powers, including Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden, rose up against him. They fought the massive Battle of Leipzig in 1813, also known as the Battle of Nations, where Napoleon was decisively defeated. The Allied armies then invaded France itself. Despite a series of brilliant defensive maneuvers by Napoleon, his depleted forces were overwhelmed. In April 1814, with Paris occupied by the enemy, his own marshals forced him to abdicate the throne. The victorious Allies exiled him to the small Mediterranean island of Elba. They restored the Bourbon monarchy to France, and it seemed the Napoleonic era was finally over. But Napoleon was not a man to accept defeat. While in exile on Elba, he watched as the new king, Louis XVIII, grew unpopular in France. He saw his chance. In February 1815, less than a year after his abdication, he escaped from Elba, landed in the south of France, and began a legendary march to Paris. The troops sent to arrest him instead flocked to his banner, chanting "Vive l'Empereur." He entered Paris without a single shot being fired, beginning a period known as the 100 Days. The European powers were stunned and immediately declared war. They assembled their armies to crush him once and for all. The final showdown came on June 18, 1815, near a small Belgian village called Waterloo. Napoleon faced a combined British and Allied army led by the Duke of Wellington, with a Prussian army under Marshal Blucher marching to join them. The battle was a brutal, bloody affair. Napoleon's attacks were fierce, but Wellington's troops held their ground with grim determination. The turning point came late in the afternoon with the arrival of the Prussians, who smashed into Napoleon's flank. His elite Imperial Guard made a final, desperate charge but was repulsed. The French army broke and fled. The Battle of Waterloo was a complete and final defeat. Napoleon's 100 days were over. This time, his enemies took no chances. Napoleon was exiled to the remote, windswept island of St. Helena in the middle of the South Atlantic, thousands of miles from Europe. Guarded by the British, he spent his last 6 years in lonely isolation, dictating his memoirs, reflecting on his incredible life, and crafting the legend that would outlive him. He died on May 5, 1821, at the age of 51. The cause of his death remains a subject of debate, though stomach cancer is the most widely accepted theory. Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy is as complex and vast as his empire. Was he a tyrant who plunged Europe into war, causing the deaths of millions? Or was he a visionary leader who spread the ideals of the French Revolution, modernized laws, and built the foundations of modern Europe? The truth is, he was both. He was a flawed genius, a man of boundless ambition who rose higher and fell further than almost anyone in history. His story serves as a timeless reminder of the heights one person can achieve, and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more.